Welcome back to Ginexplicable. I am here with the lovely Alexander KJ.
Bonjour.
Yet again back here drinking and talking shit about some mysteries. Today we're drinking Belgravia gin. We have not miraculously become millionaires, have we, Alex? We've not won the lottery.
I know for a fact I've not.
So we just have to deal with drinking this for the time being. We're going to be talking about a very interesting case today. We're going to be talking about the case of the Somerton Man.
I've not heard a great deal about
No.
if anything at all, so it'll be interesting to give a fresh opinion.
So we're going to jump into today's case. On the 1st of December 1948 in Adelaide, Australia, there was the body of a man found on a beach. A middle-aged guy who was dressed immaculately in a suit, very nice shoes on. He was away from the sea, backed up against the wall on the beach, lying in a relaxed position, his feet laid out and his head and shoulders kind of propped up.
The thing is, if he's dressed in a suit immaculately and he's dead, could he have already been dead at his own funeral?
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No, and here's why. The day previously, a few people had come on the beach and seen said man in suit, exact same position. A couple had walked by him, and they actually said this man in the suit had raised his arm and then limply dropped it. Pissed.
The thing is, they could have just seen it. Do you know what I mean?
He was found with a half-smoked cigarette on his chest, and he was also found with another cigarette behind his ear.
Right.
He wasn't found with any wallet or ID on him. However,
As they all are.
he was found with a bus ticket, a rail ticket from a suburb nearby, cigarettes, 2 combs, a pack of juicy fruit chewing gum.
Just like normal things you'd carry around. I don't know why I'd have 2 combs. Did he have a beard?
No, he didn't have a beard.
2 hair combs.
2.
Fingers though. Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay. In addition to this, when they stripped him off and checked it all out, all the labels had been cut out of his clothes. The coroner determined that he'd likely died in his sleep and of suspected heart failure.
That doesn't sound suspicious to me.
It gets weirder, weirder, by the way. The post-mortem revealed that a few of his organs were inflamed. His spleen was 3 times the regular size of how a spleen should be, indicating he was pretty ill. However, he was in good physical shape. He had calves that were described as very pronounced, like that of a ballet dancer. His hands were not calloused, and he did not seem like he'd worked in manual labour, which was very uncommon for the days because it was just after the war. So from the outset, he didn't have any marks or anything on him, but his insides were a little bit fucked. So it could have meant he was quite sick beforehand.
Or could it have just been that because when you die, your body does naturally inflame. As the bacteria eats away your insides, they release a gas, like a sort of like methane. So that could be due to why, because your body starts to bloat a little bit, and because of that, that's why you shit yourself when you die. Like your body releases its unused fluids basically, but yeah, as the microorganisms and bacterial cultures eat away at your body as they do, and natural decomposition starts, your body will start to inflame because they release gases, and that's where you get the stench from.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. His spleen was 3 times the normal size. He had brain congestion, kidney congestion, but all in all, it turns out he was inside not really a picture of health. However, the maladies could not have caused his
discomfort,
death.
But not.
They wouldn't have killed him. Another thing that I actually didn't mention just then is they obviously pulled up dental records to try and see who this guy was. He was not found with any ID, so they looked at his dental records and it didn't match any in the Australian database. It could have been he was Australian and not have a dental record, I don't know. how pertinent dentists were in those days. If everyone went, or it could have been said that if he didn't have any dental records in Australia, that he might not have been from Australia. Because of this unused train ticket that they had found, the Adelaide police were able to go to the station and were able to match the ticket with a luggage tag. They were able to find the Somerton Man's belongings.
What happened with the luggage?
They found some kind of implement that had been filed down to make a little blade, which is a bit weird. I wouldn't say...
I don't think it's a bit weird.
They found his luggage with the rest of the clothes, with the rest of the labels cut out of it. There was a few labels with the name Keane written on in a variety of different ways. Police looked into that, and it was a bit of a wild goose chase. It led to a bit of a dead end. So then the case went cold.
As always.
Until 4 months later, they were re-examining the body, and they had found in this mysterious man's waistband of his trousers a note, folded up little paper note, which read, "Tamam Shud." How strange is that? It was not a handwritten note, it was a note that was taken from a book. It was taken from a Persian poetry book known as the Rubaiyat. And it was not a very popular book at the time, so this was very strange.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so that kind of reopened.
And what did that translate to?
So tamam should translate into ended or it is ended.
I mean, that does point to espionage.
So the police are like, shit. This might not be as cut and dry as we think, as we have previously thought about this. They try to seek out this book, find this book where this page has come from, but they're having no luck. So they bury the guy, but before they do, they actually make a plaster cast of him, so they can kind of like re-examine, re-look at him, see if anyone remembers him. Further 4 months later, this is 8 months after the death of this guy, the guy was found. A man actually comes forward and says, "I found a copy of this book in my car, which was parked somewhere near Somerton Beach on that day, and the last page of it, the last paragraph of it is missing." The police looked at the book and tested the paper and determined it did come from this very, very rare book. So get this, so they get the book, it matches the exact missing paragraph from which was found on the Somerton Man. In addition, this book also contains a couple of phone numbers and a code which has actually never been debunked.
Did they ring the phone numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they rang the phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They tried one of them and one of them was no longer in use, and then they tried the other, and that led them directly to a woman named Jessica Thompson. They said, "We found your number in a copy of the Rubaiyat. Do you have any idea about this?" And she actually said, "Yes, I had a copy of this book, which I gave to a guy who I knew previously who was in the forces." And so the police were like, "This is sorted, we've clearly found this Somerton Man. This is a very uncommon book. So what are the fucking chances?" Basically, they actually tracked this guy down and he was still alive, and he actually had the copy of the Rubaiyat Jessica had given him, so it proved that it wasn't this man. So obviously this Jessica was looking pretty freaking shady at this point. And they showed the plaster cast of the Somerton Man, and as soon as she sees it, she's very freaked out by it. She looks at it once and then never looks at it again, and is assuring them, "I don't know this guy, I don't know this guy, I don't know this guy."
Is she alive today?
She has died.
Okay.
She's died. So what the fuck happened?
Of all the evidence that I've heard from you, I do think that I don't know why he died. I don't. However, I feel like, she's a shady character, this bitch. She could have been tried to be a cult leader. And used this Kama Sutra, whatever it's called, as a Bible to sort of go off. But just the Mormons do when you're in the street, "Oh, this is my number, here's the Book of Mormon."
Yes, that's happened to us before, hasn't it?
So she's written a number and read it. This is the way I think we should all live. This is my number. Give multiple copies out. Maybe he was frightened of it. Maybe he was pressured into, something like that, and he's either killed himself or had been killed.
Kill or be killed.
Well, it's...
And I didn't mention about this, the Rubaiyat. It is a book of poetry, but it kind of is, from what I can gather, about how to live your life to the fullest. It's not a particularly religious book, I don't believe, but it could have definitely been maybe used as a little set of rules for life.
Yeah,
perhaps.
That's off the top of my novel.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump into the theories for this one.
Okay.
There's not many. Obviously, there's the spy theory, and then
yes, espionage theory.
Espionage. I honestly do think it's very, 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 very likely. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I think it could be 70%.
I would say 80%, 75, 80%.
Okay.
I don't want to believe that theory, but I think it's Jesus knows. Actually, only Jesus knows. Anyways. The second theory that I wanted to kind of talk about is a bit of a love story theory between a woman whose phone number was found in the book. Phone number was found in that book. Called her up. She acted shady. She couldn't look at the mould of the guy. So she was married at the time. So she was married at the time. She had a little baby, but the baby was not biologically her husband, so she'd had the child out of wedlock, and she was probably very embarrassed. It was different times. It was 1948. Yeah. The theory goes, you know, they met each other in some such way.
Yeah.
She'd had a child, and whatever, the child was a little baby at the time. Maybe he'd journeyed to find her in this place. He'd gone and found her and been very, very upset that she had this new life, and then gone to the beach. Maybe took something, but it's very, very difficult because I think about that, and I personally feel like that's quite logical. I do think that's more.
But I do think that
believable.
It was extended, like it was an extent to go to cut all your
labels out the clothes.
Yeah, and then put that hidden.
Why are labels out the clothes? Why put that thing in your waistband? And why have a code? What the fuck's that to do with a code? Another theory is that it's some kind of military thing. Obviously, the guy that she'd given the copy of the Rubaiyat to he was in the military, and it could have been said that perhaps the Somerton Man was also in the military, whether it be the military for that country or a different country, and he was deployed to Australia to fight in the war. Maybe it was some kind of secret underground military thing, like a couple of them had the book, and it's just so fucking weird. Like, even if all of that, why cut out a thing? Because I don't actually think that I honestly believe, like in my heart of hearts, that the Somerton Man died of his own accord. I, for some reason, think that he committed suicide, drank some poison, committed suicide by himself, and left it cryptically. His organs weren't the best, so he could have possibly been very ill, known he was ill, and I do think he just kind of maybe offed himself, tried to do it peacefully. I think he knew that woman, and I think for whatever reason, maybe he
definitely.
Why put all your labels out your clothes? They're like, unhappy or not, and maybe because I could maybe see myself doing something like that. Do you know what I mean? Just making your life mean something more than what it is, or whatever. Just kind of rounding it all off with a little quote. I'm all about a quote. I like that. I like how it's ripped out a little piece that's like, "It is ended," very poetic, and just had that on his person, and just been like, I don't think that's that weird. I don't know why you cut your labels out of clothes. I don't know why you would do that. I don't know why you'd do that.
Yeah, me either.
So much
to say about it.
There's so much
to inform.
Like, why was the book found in that man's car?
I don't know.
Are you scratching your will?
I was scratching my willy.
Your last will and testament.
I was scratching my bollocks.
What is the conclusion that we have drawn from this? I think that this is it's a case that I really, really cannot come to a solid conclusion with.
I'm sticking with my theory of occultism. You have to see what Reddit says, don't you?
I wanted to find an answer for it. I really more probably than maybe Madeleine McCann tops that. But the Somerton Man definitely is a high competitor because he had a family, surely. Like, who was he? Was he... What?
If it...
Oh, it's like, genuinely... It is Ginexplicable.
Hey? This is what we do.
It's what I do. It's what I do. If you turned around to me tomorrow and said he was a spy, I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'd say, Joe, what?
And if you turned around to me tomorrow and said, like, it wasn't. But was there anything else it could have been? Maybe was he a lonely man who knew he was dying? Why cut the labels out of your clothes?
Maybe they were irritating him.
Maybe.
Because I do cut labels out of my clothes because
sometimes
they're
I
irritating
do.
And the case remains
Ginexplicable.
If anyone watches the video, thanks for watching it. Please do leave a comment. You like, so you don't like, so that we could improve. Could we add a backdrop? Could we add a better quality? Could we add a ring? Well, I mean, we could do all these things. Should we do something new? Should it remain the same? Is there any things you want exploring? I mean, obviously we're still in the early stages of development of Ginexplicable, so just, a bit of feedback would not actually go amiss at this time.
And soon.